Kyle Tucker to the injured list for the Chicago Cubs. Where's your worry wheel? Is it at 15%? Is it 30%? Is it all the way to 45%? Is it 100%? Where's your worry wheel with Kyle Tucker and his left calf strain?
Luke, I'm stepping up to this big giant wheel. I'm giving it a twirl right now, and it is slipping past hyperventilate and landing just next to brown paper bag. I'm lightly blowing into the paper bag, and I am worried, but I'm not concerned. Can that be fair? He's eligible to come back September 16th. If he can come back and if he can play right field and he is Kyle Tucker and able to do all the things that Kyle Tucker can do, and he can get back to being productive, there still is enough time to get the real Kyle Tucker back in this lineup by the time the playoffs roll around, I believe on October 2nd. But I am worried, not overly concerned. Where are you? Spin the wheel.
My worry wheel's at about 70% because he's the most important player on the team.
Fair.
Period. He's the biggest thing they have. He's the closest thing to a superstar they have. And there is nothing more important to the Chicago Cubs and their postseason chances. Nothing is bigger than trying to get Kyle Tucker right. Now, here are the facts. He hasn't played a game since September 2nd. It goes back, it's retroactive to September 6th. So you're right, the 16th is the day. There's still time for him to come back and play some games and be healthy before the end of the season into the postseason. My biggest problem with the whole thing isn't the worry of it's a calf injury and will he get right? He's going to be fine because they finally put him on the injured list. Why did we wait all this time? People say, well, why not? Because you thought he might have come back. Because you just scored 6 runs in the 4 losses when he's been out, when you could have had somebody doing something offensively instead. Mo Baller could have been up. Owen Casey could have been up. Why sit a man down when it's more important to just get him right at this point? I don't. Why the Cubs don't like the injured list move earlier, I don't know. Is it Tucker refusing to go on the IL and finally they said no? I don't know the answer to all that. Maybe it's a little bit of both. The problem I have with that theory is we've seen it with Dansby. We've seen it with other players throughout. We've seen it with Tucker now twice in one season. I don't think it's just a Kyle Tucker didn't want to go on the injured list. I think the Cubs are overly hesitant to make that move for whatever reason, and I don't really get it.
No, it's a fascinating calculus that they deploy when it comes to injured players and whether they should go on that injured list. Kyle Tucker runs the bases and does outfield work on a Friday. They put him on the IL on Monday. So what exactly happens during that stretch right there that gets them all the way through Monday? I'm going to call this good news, though, for Cubs fans because they are not sending him back out there and letting a veteran player grind it out. They're actually going to do everything they can to get him to be 100%. And I'm with you. I guess I'm maybe a little bit more on the worrywart side of the worry wheel that a calf strain can sometimes turn into a different injury. And the last thing that you want is Kyle Tucker aggravating something else or re-aggravating that calf and missing more time. Even if Cubs fans, that means he doesn't come back on September 16th. If he needs a couple extra days, there is still plenty of time. And thank your lucky stars as a Cubs fan that they did the work early on in the season, playing such great baseball at that clip. And I know the Cubs fans have been frustrated recently when it comes to the Chicago Cubs treading water and playing 500-ish, but it hasn't been basement-level baseball. You know what I mean? And I get it that the offense hasn't been good right now. They have the pad to do something like this right now. I'm glad that it's finally happening. Hopefully Mo Baller comes up and rakes and makes it a tough decision moving forward for at-bats. But, man, when it comes to the Cubs and their injured players, man, they slow play it. They get the magnifying glass out. They look at it. They think about it. And I'm with you. Sometimes it's a little too late.
I don't really care how this impacts Kyle Tucker's free agency. I don't. Either he's going to be a price that you think you can afford or he's going to be a price that you don't think you can afford. That's up to the Cubs front office to decide whether they want to pay a player whatever amount he thinks he's worth and what other teams will think he's worth in the offseason. I am curious what it does behind the scenes, what the relationship is like. Aren't you a little curious? Like, is this Kyle pushing back? Does he like the way he's been treated this season? Are there any of those things lingering, or is money such an overriding factor in free agency that it just doesn't matter? Personally, I don't look at this and say, the guy's injury prone, I have to give him way less money than what people thought. He's going to get market value. I don't know what that market value is, and this probably lowers it a little bit, as well as not as productive as he was early in the season. But I would love to know what the relationship is really like behind the scenes between Tucker and the Cubs front office.
You can't look at me with a straight face and say that any major sport, whether it's a quarterback or a star slugger or your best sniper in the NHL, whatever it may be, your top scorer in basketball, that organizations don't make a deference towards their best player all the time. And I'm with you that I think that this season began as a courtship for the Chicago Cubs. A courtship to say, hey, would you like to play here in Chicago? But also a courtship of, hey, can we maybe take the 6 off the $600 million, and can we maybe make it a 4 or a 375 because you love it here in the city of Chicago? So it's a really interesting point about what kind of communication has gone on between Kyle Tucker and the Chicago Cubs when he fractures his finger in June. I want to believe, and I'm willing to speculate as my own opinion, that I think Kyle Tucker went to the Cubs and said, hey, no, I want to play. I'm the type of player that wants to be in the lineup every single day. And I think the Chicago Cubs said, well, all right, let's see how it goes. And it worked for a little while until it didn't. And then I think that there was more dialogue and more conversation about what is it going to take. And it eventually turned into him sitting down for a few days. With this injury, that communication continues and hopefully matures and gets better. And maybe on the bright side, this kind of dialogue that they're having now can turn into a long-term relationship that both sides feel really comfortable and there's a trust factor there. But again, when it comes to your best player in a season when you're trying to go really deep in the playoffs, I think a lot of these franchises have a tendency to say, do whatever you want.
Ever since the Cubs made this move with the Astros, it's been a season and off-season of worry about whether or not Kyle Tucker would re-sign with the Cubs. That headline is still there. But the more important one right now is, will you get him ready for the postseason? And will he be a superstar when you most need it? Whether he's a rental or a long-term solution, right now the opportunity is there. Get him right. Please get him right, and then bring him back and have him